All right, GPRead, week number 17. We are well into the book of Numbers, and I hope you are watching the summary videos that are by the Bible Project. We're posting those on the gracepoint.life/read page where you can see those. Every time you start a new book of the Bible, you can go there and see there's a new summary video there. Now, some of these, like Exodus, for example, had two videos because Exodus is covered in two of those videos because it's such a long book. So be sure you keep an eye out for those things. Today, we're going to be looking at Numbers chapters 5 through 11, which is what we'll be focusing on in this next week's reading program. And I want to point out something to you about the book of Numbers. The book of Numbers is a book of narrative. So, in other words, it is a book telling a story about what happened in Israel. But it also is a book that is detailing some of the finer points of what God instructed the people to do and how he instructed them to do that. So some of that detail can get a little arduous for us. We can get a little bored with it, but don't let yourself get discouraged or drawn down into the detail to the point that you just give up reading, because you're going to continue reading the story as well. You see, let me give you some examples. In these chapters we're going to be reading for this week, you're going to be seeing some of the detail. You're going to see laws about people who are considered unclean. You're going to be reading about confession and restitution among the people, how that should happen. You're going to read about adultery, about various vows, about blessings, about offerings, about these lamps and trumpets and things like that. But then you're also going to read events that happened and things that they did, like the very first Passover that is celebrated outside the land of Egypt. You're going to read about the cloud of God's presence coming and covering the tabernacle after they've got it all set up and God actually dwelling among his people. You're going to read about Israel leaving Sinai after they've received the law and heading toward the promised land. And you're going to read about their complaints and the negative track they begin to walk on, even though God has given them his entire law by which they're to order and live. You see, friends, there are lots of details, yes, but don't get bogged down because there's still a story going on. God's story of how he dealt with his people and his people's response to him. And we can learn so much from what we read there about common responses we see in them that we often will see in ourselves as we don't understand what God's doing and as we begin to question. And those questions oftentimes can become the source of our doubts. They can become the source of our bitterness toward God, quite honestly. And we need to recognize in all of this, God is being so gracious to set his people up for success. It's their rebellion against him that causes that success not to happen. So, friends, let's be very mindful of our own hearts as we read this passage and as we move forward in our GP reading plan. And as I always say, keep plugging away at the book of Proverbs. That wisdom is going to be so essential for you as you read day after day these little pithy statements in the book of Proverbs. You're going to see principles for living and principles for life that are powerful. God bless, friends. Continue on with the GP Read program. Love you. Talk to you again soon.